Hello, welcome back to my haunted library. It's Regina. I'm back after a little break and I feel great, really getting into the holiday spirit, and it's wonderful to see you all again. I hope you're having a great time since the last time we spoke, and I thought I would fill you in a little bit about what I'm doing. This might go on a bit, so I will timestamp it below. But I wanted to start out, first of all, just wishing everyone a happy holiday season, however you celebrate. I hope you're having a lovely time so far. And can't wait to hear from you. So leave a comment, just say hi, because it seems like it's been a while. But I wanted to start off with a beautiful package that I received in the mail today from my friend Patrick. And I just love what he did here. Patrick, if you're watching, thank you so much. It's very, very sweet of you to remember me. And oh, I love this card. He sent me a couple books and I'm just very excited. I've already opened this package because it takes me forever to open, but I just love, all right, I am putting a letter opener on my wish list. I've been dropping hints to my husband left and right. And he knows I need one too because I make a mess of our monthly bills, but I hate to do that because the card is so nice and so put together, but here we go. Oh, I love this. I love Christmas cards. I'm going to put our address below if anyone wants to send us a card. I would love to hear from you, but any like snowy scene, Currier and Ives inspired scene like this, I just melt. It's so beautiful. Little sleigh ride in a gorgeous house. You know, I grew up in the country, and I kid you not, well, maybe not quite like this. My house wasn't this grand, but by far. But I remember sledding at night and that wonderful feeling. I grew up on a mountain, so I would sled down the mountain at night. Of course, it took a lot to haul the sled back up. And my home would be at the bottom of this little valley, and the lights would be on inside, yellow, and my mother would be cooking dinner, and I would be so cold and come in and have a nice dinner. I mean, nothing is cozier than that, right? I'm so grateful for my upbringing in that way. Dear Regina, wishing you old-fashioned pleasures, happy memories, and every joy of the season. Which, of course, old-fashioned pleasures is just what I was talking about. It's the best. I just love it. And wishing you and Batilda a very Merry Christmas. May Krampus bring you something sweet. Sincerely, Patrick. Thank you so much. That is so thoughtful. And, oh my gosh, these books. First of all, The Witcher, The Last Wish. This is a beautiful hardback copy of this book. Now, I think I have it on Kindle, and I have read it. Also, I listened to the audiobook, but now this makes me want to reread this. This is a beautiful book. Of course, I love The Witcher. It's just gorgeous. Thank you so much. It's so sweet. And then, Krampus, the Yule Lord. This is so awesome. Oh, I can't wait to dig into this. I think I'm going to have to bring this to the top of my reading stack because this is perfect holiday reading. Patrick, thank you again so much. I will be sending you a thank you note very soon and maybe a little gift. That just puts me in the holiday mood. So what have I been doing since we last spoke? Basically, I've been doing a lot of offline stuff, which is really why I decided to take a break. It was just like, I just felt a little bit like I was online too much. I wanted to get out. At the very end of this video, I'm going to edit together some scenes from one of my walks that I did recently. I mean, if you're not interested, you don't have to stick around for that. But it's just kind of showing that I got outside while it was still pretty nice out. I mean, it's still pretty nice out here at this part of the world in Pennsylvania. Has not been that cold, and we haven't had any snow yet. But hopefully by Christmas, it's been lovely, really. And so anyway, if you want to stick around for that, I can show you a little bit of what I do when I'm not online for fun. So what did I do? I read some books. I finished up some of my October reading. I read Usher's Passing by Robert McCammon, and I really liked that book a lot. I did find myself kind of skimming till the end, and I hate when I do that. I may go back and actually backtrack a little bit because I kind of got impatient with it. It just felt long, and uh, I don't know. I just that's a problem I have sometimes with reading. I just get impatient and I just want it to hurry up, which is my character flaw, really not the flaw of the book. So the book was pretty excellent, and of course I'll read more by that author. I read one other book that he wrote and about the band. I think it's called The Five, which was a newer book, but yeah, it was really good. And I was in like a Fall of the House of Usher kind of mood, having just reread that story, and I bought another book that has a Fall of the House of Usher theme, which of course I don't remember the name, but I did just get that. I haven't read it yet. And then I finished up some other Halloween reading. This book, Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge, had been on my shelf for a couple years, and I'm just loving that cover, but honestly, I didn't love the book. I mean, I'm happy it was short because I know I would have DNF'd this book. It just wasn't in my the style that I like, and I find this, and I've spoken to this before, and I put no other fault on it but my own because this book has been praised. It won a Bram Stoker Award. I mean, what do I know except that I didn't like it? It's told in a very modern style with that like second person point of view, which I just don't like at all. And it takes me out of the story. I just wasn't happy with this. So I may be unhauling this book at some point. Look, like I said, I'm in a minority. A lot of people love this book. That's all I have to say about that because I don't want to get to be like trashing a book. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. Not that I trash a lot of books, but just acknowledging that reading is very subjective. Some people obviously love a book like that, and it was very praised. I just found it really kind of not entertaining and really not interesting. That's me. So, what else have I been doing? Well, I started reading mostly nonfiction. Maybe I was kind of doing a nonfiction in November without really planning on it. I was trying to do NaNoWriMo. I just threw that to the wind. I haven't been writing anything. I mean, that's not exactly true. I've been updating I started a new Wattpad story, which I knew I said I was not going to do Wattpad anymore, but I found my story, Black and Blue Ivy, kind of fit that. So instead of putting it on Kindle Vella, which I've just completely I have a couple stories on there, but I don't engage on that at all. I moved it to Wattpad, and also I moved my fantasy story Starlux there, which I feel like those are not, especially the fantasy, are not books that I necessarily want to publish. This is more of like a writing experiment for me. So they're going to live on Wattpad there for a while. I'll link it below, and I'm going to add it again to my channel in case you're interested in. So I've kind of, rethought that a little bit. Another reason why I needed some time off is that I put out a zine called Bookworms. I put out a call for submissions. Now, it does pay, so I expected to get a few, but I never expected to get over 600 short story submissions. I kid you not. It's like 648 or something like that. It's overwhelming, to say the least. And I prayed on the day that the deadline came because I just can't read anymore. So I have been trying to break that up every day and read like 20 stories every morning, which takes a lot of time. So I've been doing that as far as reading, and then the rest of the reading I've been doing has been nonfiction, sort of, because I do read a lot of these like ancient alien type books, which, hey, if it weren't for that show Ancient Aliens, I don't think I would have gotten through the COVID lockdown. Just saying. So I read a book called Sinister Forces, which is I think the third volume in this magnum opus. I forget his name, the author, but I'll put it right here. And that was this long conspiracy kind of a book about all kinds of stuff. And I really enjoyed that, about like evil forces and, from Kennedy assassinations to Manson murders and how it's all interconnected. So I've been enjoying that. And I've also been reading from my world history book and kind of following threads about that. So I've been reading about the Egyptians and the Nubians and different ancient cultures, and really enjoying that. That's what I've been reading. I also watched some really good TV, like 1899, the makers of Dark did a first season of a. It was. Now, this might be just me, but I thought it was originally advertised as horror. It's really not horror. It's more like science fiction along the lines of Dark, and I really, really loved it. I'm not sure if it's quite as good as Dark, because I absolutely loved that whole series, but it's only the first season. So I don't know if after the first season of Dark, I was head over heels the way I was by the time it was finished. But this is definitely good. It's on Netflix. It's called 1899. It all takes place, well, sort of. It's a lot of twists, so I won't go into it, but it starts off on an ocean liner traveling with a multinational cast going to America, but things kind of go awry, and just watch it. It's really good. So I also watched some movies, of course, and some Christmas themed movies, which is what I'm going to talk about today. I went on a bit of a binge a couple days ago and watched all three of the Black Christmas movies. Now, two I had seen before. The original Black Christmas from the 70s I had watched a couple times. So just kind of chatting a little bit about them and comparing them. So there will be some spoilers if you haven't seen these movies. So the original Black Christmas came out in 1974, directed by Bob Clark, written by A. Roy Moore. It is a Canadian film, and you can tell the exterior shots when they're out there that it's really cold. You can just tell the breath is coming out like white clouds. Olivia Hussey, this beautiful actress who played Juliet in Romeo and Juliet, she's just stunning, plays Jess. Keir Dullea plays her boyfriend Peter. He was the astronaut from A Space Odyssey. He's got one of those like kind of Prince Valiant haircuts in this movie. Margot Kidder plays Barb, whom I absolutely love. I've always loved that actress, and I find her so interesting. John Saxon plays the lieutenant, and there's like part of the story brings in police force. As an actor, he was a face that was very familiar. He was on A Nightmare on Elm Street. Marion Waldman plays Mrs. McHenry as their house mother, Mrs. Mack. I feel like she was an old movie star. I didn't find out a lot about her, but she just seems like she was probably like a 50s star or something. And Andrea Martin as Phil, and she is really wonderful. I was thinking about how much the actresses then, compared to the ones in like the second and third film that I'm going to talk about, just seem to have a lot more personality. It's hard to kind of even tell, especially in the second film, who's who. There's one blonde, but they all kind of look alike. Anyway, I'll get to that film. But in this one, they have very distinctive personalities, or as Norma Desmond said in Sunset Boulevard, we had faces then. I feel like these actresses had not only faces, but great personalities that came out in their roles. So the story is based on this urban myth of the call is coming from inside the house, which I remember that urban myth. It was, there's a movie with Carol Kane. Is it When a Stranger Calls? That explores this myth as well. I think that came out a little later, late 70s, but I might be wrong. I'll put it right here, the date that came out. And there's a novelization of this book that I went on eBay and tried to get, but it's so expensive that I'm hoping that I run into it in the wild someday, or that I find a cheap version, because now I really want to read it. But it's about this this group of girls, sorority sisters, and they live in an old-fashioned kind of sorority house. It's right before Christmas vacation. They're packing up to go to their respective vacations with family or whatever. We see Barb, Margot Kidder, kind of drinking a little too much during this party. It seems like her family plans don't include her, so she wants them to all go on a ski trip. Jess, Olivia Hussey's character, has got her own problems. She's actually just found out that she's pregnant with Peter's child, and she doesn't want to have the baby. And Andrea Martin, she's kind of like our comic relief, although Margot Kidder is too in this movie, and the house mother. There's a lot of humor in this one. And the character Claire, I don't have her name down, the actress's name, but she is in and her boyfriend appear in the making of, there's like a making of Black Christmas that came out maybe in the 90s. That's really worth watching, as well as an interview I found with Margot Kidder, where she talks about it as well. So basically the plot is there's an obscene phone caller, they call him the moaner, who calls and kind of freaks him out a bit. Margot Kidder, gets on and kind of throws it back at him, but it's disturbing. And then you don't see the killer, but you see the shadow, or from his point of view, he enters the house through the attic and kind of then starts to do his dirty work throughout the film. So it is kind of a typical slasher film, but I feel like it was one of the original ones. A movie like Scream took a lot from this movie, I think. It's not a perfect film, but it's definitely, for horror fans, I think they will definitely love this film. And I'm glad that it's kind of gotten its cult status, because it deserves it. It's really good. I've seen it. This is, I think, the third time I've watched it, and every time I get drawn into it. It's really, really good. So I will leave that there, and now go on to the next one. Oh, and it does have a bit of a twist ending. I won't give that away, but it kind of leads you down one path, and then it's like, oh, this is cool, and kind of sets it up for a good sequel. It would have been cool to see a sequel with the original cast, but that didn't happen. Although in the next film, Black Christmas, or Black Xmas, that came out in 2006, Andrea Martin does reprise her role, but this time she is the house mother. And I have to tell you, she looks great. Like, she did not age a day. She looks really great. This film I thought was really interesting. This is the first time I watched this. And I think maybe I avoided it because I thought it was going to be really bad, but it was actually better than I anticipated. So let's talk about this a little bit. There may be a few spoilers. This was directed by Glenn Morgan, starring Katie Cassidy, Michelle something. I don't know who any of these actresses are, except Andrea Martin. So it is a bit of a, not exactly a remake. I feel like it's kind of goes back and gets deeper into the original backstory, which I thought was one of the better parts of the film, and then takes it into like a new story with pretty much the same kind of idea, like another slasher film, monster hidden in the walls kind of thing. So the film takes place over several days before Christmas and tells the story of a group of sorority sisters who are stalked and murdered in their home during a winter storm. It is a loose remake and reimagining of the 1974 film. This gets into the character of Billy Lenz, who is the killer from the first movie. So it's kind of like we're going back and learning about Michael Myers or Jason's backstory. So it goes back to when Billy's just a baby. He's severely jaundiced, which is kind of implied that his mother, who's a horrible person and a terrible alcoholic, kind of drank while she was pregnant, and this is why he's like this. And she goes through like a series of kind of like abusing her husband and different men. She's just a broken person, and Billy is growing up in a horrible environment where he is locked in the attic and mistreated and abused, and this turns him into a horrible killer. There's also some pretty disturbing incest in this. And this film, like I think even in 2006, you still got horror movies that were actually as bloody and as graphic as movies were back in the 70s and 80s. In the last 20 years, I feel like, or 15 years, there's been a switch where horror movies have become really tame, usually rated PG. And I guess that's because of the audience they're trying to attract. I'm not really sure what's behind that. Maybe someone can let me know in the comments below if you have any idea. So it's 15 years later. Billy escapes from his cell on Christmas Eve. That whole part in the prison I thought was really well done. Like, the more I think about this movie, the more I really do like it. And then he goes back to his former home, which is the sorority house. So that's where he grew up. And the way they show the house when he's a child, like the film it has like a really high contrast Christmas colors, which I thought were really good. The storm outside is done really well. Like every time you see a window, there's just snow coming down. It's really good. So then we have like different intrigue going on with the different sorority sisters. This I feel like was the weakest part of the film for me. It's like a group of actresses, but they just don't have the different characters like you see in the original. It's really hard to tell them apart. I mean, all the women, there's like one blonde, so I'm like, okay, there's the blonde, but the rest kind of had the same dark, long hair. They just don't seem to have much personality. There's one that's like the drunk. She's, I guess, supposed to be like the Margot Kidder character, but not even close to creating an interesting character. And, I just don't know why that is, but it just was a little boring. So once Billy's in the house, the attacks are pretty predictable. There's some subplot with like a sex tape that I felt like that really never kind of took off for me. But it gets into some of the intrigues with the different sorority sisters, but none of them really have like the punch as the original, in my opinion. It's not a perfect film. I felt like it's definitely flawed, but for horror fans, I think it's worth checking out. So now we come to the third and final Black Christmas, which came out in 2019. This was the second time I had watched this. I'm pretty sure I saw it when it came out. Not in the movie theater, though. I watched it on streaming or something. And this one is not that good, I have to say. And a lot of people agree it's really not that good. But this film is really the furthest from the original story. It has a completely different plot. It does take place in a sorority house around a sorority sisters around Christmas, but that's about it. And it is like a slasher, but it has a whole other different story, which I think could have been good, but the way it's set up, it's not really good. I think part of the problem too is a horror film without real horror in it and a really preachy message and a script that's pretty bad is not going to land with horror fans. So you have to wonder, who is this film for? It's about these sorority sisters who have this rivalry with this it seemed kind of conservative fraternity who are really just a bunch of dicky guys. And the main girl, Riley, was sexually assaulted by one of these frat boys. They do it in flashbacks, so I'm not really sure, like, did it happen at a party and she was, given a roofie and passed out or something, and he took advantage. And she's kind of suffering from that assault at the beginning of the film. She's very depressed. She's feeling very lost. And one of the sorority sisters is very empowered, feminist, who's kind of giving her this message that she needs to get revenge on this guy and all this stuff. So, I mean, I actually think that is a pretty good premise for a sorority story. It's just that the script, there's a lot of like telling, not showing. And where you see these feminist themes coming out, especially in the first story, the first movie, it doesn't quite land in the third film where it's kind of like preached at you. But this really doesn't work. But I'm glad I watched it. Like I said, I watched it twice. It also has no gore in it, which is disappointing for horror fans. There are kills, but no blood really. And then a really ridiculous, like, big battle scene at the end. But anyway, so the girls decide they're going to pull a fast one on this fraternity. They show up at a Christmas party, and originally I'm thinking, okay, if they're talking about how much they don't want to be objectified by these boys or these young men, why are they wearing these sexy Santa outfits? But then they sing a song where they kind of do this Christmas song and then call the boys, the frat boys, like a bunch of rapists. The weird thing about that whole scene is like there's no accompanying music. Like, couldn't they afford like even a karaoke machine? They not lip sync, a cappella this song, and it's really a cringy kind of moment. I think it's supposed to feel like empowering, but it just feels like kind of, I had secondhand embarrassment while watching this film. Just have to say. Although there was one good moment that. A shot that, I forget who directed this. I actually feel like it was a female director. I should be more like woman power here and be supportive, but I'm not going to lie if I don't like something. Sophia Takal, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce her name, written by her and April Wolf. So Obviously it was, I think it had good intentions. I think it was meant to be like a feminist themed horror film, which could be really great. I mean, I've seen some really good ones like that French one with the girls, the boys go to that island and turn into women. That was I forget the name of that film. It was so great. The more I think about the story itself, I feel like it's a good idea, just not well executed. Rating wise, they do kind of go in the order of the oldest was the best, then the 2006 one, which was pretty good, had its moments, and then the 2019 one, which was not so good. So that was my Black Christmas binge. I'm going to try to watch some more Christmas-themed horror films and report back. So that's all I have for today. I wanted to also let fans of my VC Andrews videos to know that I am halfway through the Orphan series, so I'm just waiting till I complete the entire series before I do a video on that. So I should have that coming up pretty soon. So it's wonderful to reconnect with all of you, and I will see you soon in my haunted library. Bye. Hello. It is a beautiful, warm, gorgeous, sunny day, and I have a feeling I need to soak it up before a day like this is gone forever when it starts to get cold. So I'm doing my walk in Tyler Park. I'm going to check out all the beautiful fall colors and share those with you. And this time I have Lucky along with me. I feel a little bad because this was always my walk with Lily. But the last time I took Lily, which I did a video about, she didn't do too well. After about a mile, she conked out. And this is a 4-mile hike. So I'm going to try this today with Lucky, who's almost a year old, and we'll see how she does. Hopefully she'll keep up with me, or I'll keep up with her. Let's go. Some beautiful color in the trees. Let's check it out. Okay. Hey! Hey! Hey, horsey. Don't get shocked. Yeah. Good girl. Or boy. Oh, stop. As long as she doesn't eat the horse poop, everything's good. Look at those beautiful colors. Ah, it's just incredible today.